That'll help.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Hello, we're doing audio check. Can anyone drop in the chat to let me know if you can hear us? Oh, just another quick audio check. Good. Oh, yes, great. Thank you, Connor, for letting us know. Okay, so I'm Camille, but I'm going to turn it back over to Tamika, and we'll start from the beginning. Thank you, everyone who's letting us know you could hear us. We appreciate that. You should also be able to see blue screen.
Starting from the top. This is the FY25 B2B Service Provider Grants Information Session. I am Tamika Link, Project Manager with NOED. Also with me is Camille Nixon, Project Manager as well. We are going to cover in today's session the grant objectives for B2B, the NOED programs and services, our service areas, our grant award, the request for application, application process, and deadlines. Asking questions during this webinar. So throughout this session, you have an opportunity to drop any questions in the chat. We'll have a live Q&A during the last 15 minutes. Unanswered chat questions will be first. Please raise your hand and we'll call on you. Phone users will be invited to unmute using *6. If you have any questions that you do not feel comfortable with asking out loud, you can send those to no.ed@dc.gov. So let us go into our overview of grant objectives.
Let me show them the RFA.
The Department of Small and Local Business Development, we are excited to announce this fiscal year 25 B2B Service Provider Grant. We opened this grant on January 17th, Friday. So some of you have already applied. Thank you to those that have applied. Grant recipients will provide services to support other local businesses across several cohort programs, including group workshops and webinars, consultations with individual businesses, payor, service support to program participants, and other business development related initiatives. Program schedules of awarded service providers will be coordinated with us. The fiscal year 25 B2B service provider grants are limited to DC-based small businesses or nonprofit organizations that are majority owned by DC residents and provide business training, professional development, business reentry and entrepreneurship, capacity building, program support, and technical assistance. DSLBD intends to award approximately 10 to 50 grants between $500 to $50,000. Applicants may apply for funding in the service areas detailed in dependencies B through G, so we will go into those service areas a little later. The B2B service provider grants will benefit the district by offering local businesses and CBEs a wider range of hyperlocal expertise and additional business development opportunities. Going to our NOED programs and services.
Page 15.
So this year for B2B, the programs and services that we are looking to use B2B applicants are for our We Aspire program. This is for our returning citizens, justice involved individuals that are DC residents, and they are looking to build or grow a business. Also for Dream Pitch. Dream Pitch is for our Ward 7 and Ward 8. Resident-owned micro businesses with 5 or fewer employees. Dream Tank is a new program that will be offered this year, also for residents in Ward 7 and Ward 8. This opportunity is for businesses that have made at least $60,000 or more, and they'll be able to win up to $75,000. District Capitalized Hub.
District Capitalized Hub is a way that will provide technical assistance on topics that support businesses getting ready for funding and actually effectively using the funds once they obtain it. And that could be funding through sales that they generate or through financing that they obtain through loans, lines of credit, grants, and rebates. So we're looking for providers to help build their capacity to do that.
Just Cannabis. Just Cannabis is an initiative to support DC-based businesses and residents seeking to enter the regulated medical cannabis market through expansion of the DC Medical Cannabis Program. And then also we have Made in DC, which also coordinates with the support services provided through B2B Grant. Let's get into our service areas. Reentry and entrepreneurship service area. So we are seeking providers to facilitate class offerings and technical assistance and support on reentry services and entrepreneurship. So your proposals for this should of course include detailed and specific curriculums, defining the barriers between reentry and entrepreneurship for our returning citizens, entrepreneurship training, networking, mentoring, coaching, and more. So if you go into the RFA on our website, you can see exactly what class topics we are looking for. And if you have any outside of these, you can also propose those. Also, business classes and workshop service area. So this would be our general business cohort-based training classes that will be provided to Dream and Aspire. And these would be a wide range between business basics, data and analysis, regulatory compliance, marketing, and sales. Also, we have our Speakers Bureau. Speakers Bureau is when speakers have an opportunity to speak on a variety of topics, real life experiences of entrepreneurs. You will give your experience and training opportunities to support and deeper network. These stories can include success, mistakes, process, and lesson learned to help our participants grow their businesses. Elective service area. Our elective service area is the topics will be available to participants in We Aspire, Dream, and Just Cannabis. Sessions can be facilitated virtually or in person. In these sessions, for electives, you have to do at least 2 sessions and they're 60 minutes. Also, we have District Capitalized Hub.
So again, for District Capitalized Hub, the focus is on building small businesses' capacity to apply for and receive funding and effectively use that funding once they get it. It could be through sales that they generate, but there is a strong focus on obtaining funding through loans, lines of credit, grants, rebates, and other outside funding sources. So there's several topics that we'll focus on. The high-level topics are financial advisory services, accounting, legal services that specifically support a business going for funding. So think of maybe a business that might be doing investment funding, what legal services they need to prepare that paperwork to apply for, to obtain investment. Additionally, for communication and photography services, again, those are specifically focused on helping the business prepare for funding. In this case, perhaps pitching for funding, preparing their deck, preparing their photos, etc., to obtain funding that's maybe through a pitch or a crowdfunding platform. This project is funded in part by the U.S. Treasury's SSBCI Technical Assistance Funding. So providers of this can do a variety of type of methods to provide this information, but we'll need to have you report as a provider on the outcomes that you've achieved after you've trained or given someone coaching. And below are some details about the different types of ways that you can provide this content to the businesses, including webinars, small group trainings, individual consultations or coaching, as well as we're building out an e-learning platform that will need content for that as well. I'll pause here because tomorrow at 11 a.m. we're doing a much deeper dive into specifically the district capitalized service area. So I'd be happy to go into more then and also answer questions now. I just want to do a quick pause to see if everyone's able to see the slides. I just saw someone indicate that they could not. If you cannot see the slides, if you can let us know in the chat, that would be great. And by the way, the slide right now is actually the RFA document, so that's something that you could get online as well. I'll turn it back to you, Tamika.
Another one of the service areas is the non-dilutive capital support for regulated cannabis. So we're seeking providers to facilitate lending or similar non-dilutive capital support to businesses in or entering the regulated cannabis market. And then also we have pitch micropayment provider service area. So here we are seeking providers to support the issuance of micropayments to dream pitch participants and participant stipends based on their accomplishments or program participation. Any questions?
Oh, ran over.
Next, we are going to talk about the grant award. The grant award. So FY25 B2B service provider grants will be reviewed and awarded on a rolling basis. Service area awards will also be notified of their award. We anticipate awards being out by the second, third week of March 25. Applicants who are not awarded for FY25 B2B service provider grant will also be notified and you receive a notice of non-award. So pre-award finalization and insurance. Notice of grant awards will list any contingencies and additional requirements that you may need to complete or have fulfilled. They'll describe the relevant budget categories and finalization process, deliverables, and scope of work. Awardees will be required to submit proof of insurance, which will include at a minimum commercial general liability insurance with a waiver of subrogation, indemnifying the district government, workers' compensation insurance, and automobile insurance if applicable. Other insurance requirements may apply. Nonprofits will be required to submit copies of their board of directors roster and most recent Form 990s. For applicants that are previous DSLBD grantees, FY25 service provider grant decisions may be contingent upon applicants' completion of reporting requirements relevant to their previous grants. If an awardee's grant agreement cannot be executed 15 days after the issuance of the corresponding NOGA due to the awardee's inability to meet post-award requirements for any reason, grant funds may be forfeited. Awardees must maintain their eligibility status at the time of the award and throughout the entire period of performance. Eligibility status is based on compliance with items outlined in Section 3 of the RFA, as well as additional requirements set forth in this section. Formal grant agreement. Selected applicants must sign an individual grant agreement with DSLBD after meeting all contingency and pre-award requirements. Again, we anticipate the awards going out by the third week of March 2025. Additional survey assessments. So after the grant agreements have been filled, we anticipate surveying awardees in support of this program evaluation process. So also we have grant reporting. Grantees must submit additional documents and would be subject to additional reporting requirements during and after the period of performance, using reporting systems as stipulated by DSLBD. For example, grantees must describe its grant program expenditures during the period of performance pursuant to the approved budget described in the grant agreement alongside relevant documentation. Example, receipts. Grantees who fail to submit documentation of approved expenditures may be required to return grant funds corresponding with such unverified expenditures. Grantees may also be subject to reporting requirements related to grant activity, data, and deliverables. Grantees must submit interim reporting as outlined in the individual grant agreement and prepare a final report by October 30th, 2025, providing metrics detailing their expenses and the grant's impact. Disbursement. Disbursement terms shall be determined after the selection of awardees. Terms may be informed by the collection of additional documentation such as Internal Revenue Services W-9, additional proof of insurance, registration and district payments system, and ACH payment documentation. Disbursement schedules will be outlined within the grant agreement. The government of the District of Columbia shall pay properly submitted invoices in accordance with DC Official 2-221.1. Notwithstanding the forwarding, DSLBD reserves the right to request additional information or clarification from a payee or grantee under the grant agreement. Any questions?
So far. Looks like we have a question so far. And again, feel free to drop your questions in the chat. We'll answer them live now or at the end of the session. If you prefer to ask privately, you can email us at no.ed@dc.gov. But we do have a question coming in. Let's see. In order to provide these services, do you need a professional or an occupational license? So you need to be a licensed business and a for-profit entity. You could also be a sole proprietor, but you do need to have a license. That license should be appropriate for your type of business. So if you're a consultant, it might just be the basic business license provided by the Department of Licensing and Consumer Protection. But if you're providing a service perhaps by accounting, you would need to get a professional license for that. Or if you're an attorney providing legal services, say for district capitalized service area, you would need to be certified by the DC bar. So you should be licensed in the district for your business, but it depends on what type of business you are. Hopefully, hope that answered. So if you do hold a professional occupational license for your type of service, then yes, you would need that. The next question is there a word count limit for the summary or overview section in the application platform? And I think, Tiara, maybe you're talking about that the two small sections where you can have a paragraph to describe your services. If I'm wrong, please chime in. But if that's the case, is there a word count limit? No, there's not a word count limit, although I would let you know, get your most important thoughts at the top of that paragraph, because if you go on and on, it might get lost. So focus on the top, but don't feel too constrained since there is in the time a word limit. And to let you know that this is not the place where you'll be judged for your proposal at the stage part one. This is for eligibility, but we did want to have a sense of what you're proposing to do. So it's very high level. You don't have to feel compelled to put all your cards out there at this time, because if you meet the eligibility requirements, you'll be moved to the part two where you can give much, much more detail about your proposal in part two. Let's see, the next question. Where is the application located on the DSLBD website? And I could navigate us there. So I'm going to jump back to our main website. Am I there? There we go. So when you're on our homepage, it appears in a couple of places, but the most consistent place is to come down to this middle section of featured services, and you can click through to current DSLBD small business grants. And there are a couple listed there at this time, so don't be alarmed if it's not the first one you see. Scroll down a little bit more, and we're right now the second grant that's listed. It has some basic information here, but if you click on this link, it'll take you to the full page about this particular grant. And that's where you can log in for this information session and also the one next week. You can log in for that special service area focus information session tomorrow for district capitalized. And at the very bottom of the page, you can navigate to both the notice of funding availability and the request for application, the RFA. And this is the document that you should read. We've been reading from and highlighting, but you should read this very thoroughly. And then the link for the application is in the RFA. Let me move my screen. Is it at the top? I forgot myself where it is. Here it is. So under, when you go to the section about the online application and deadlines, scroll to that second page. And part one, the eligibility application, the link is right here. So when you click on this, it will open the link, and let's see if I can click on it just so that you can know what it looks like, so you know you've reached the right place when you get there. It should say it'll be in a system called Alchemer, so it'll be taken to a different website. And after reading the information at the top, you can click at to begin at the bottom and begin the application. While they're on there, do you want to share anything about this? No, okay. All right, so moving back to the Q&A. Before we go into, we'll still continue to talk about the overview, including the application deadlines, but we're going to capture any final questions from this first part. What's the deadline to apply? Great question. We're about to go into that in a moment. And then let's see, pertaining to the B2B. Oh, EJ, I saw an excerpt. I'm not sure if that's a question pertaining to B2B grant. If you do have a question, please post it. How do I apply to participate in the District Capitalized Hub? That is part of, it's just like all the other service areas for this grant. You first go through the eligibility section, part one, that's what's open here. And then in the eligibility section, as you're going through, there's a question, up to two service areas that you're interested in. So there's about 7 service areas, but you'll have to indicate which 2 you're interested in applying for if you do demonstrate that you're eligible. So that's where, if you're interested in District Capitalized Hub, you should click that as one of them. And if you could also click another one. So be sure, whatever service area you're interested in, Aspire, Dream, District Capitalized, that in your part 1, you click that one. You have the option of clicking up to 2. Are these group grants open for Latino business owners? Absolutely. You have to be a DC-based business that's actively incorporated and licensed. You could also be a sole proprietor that's actively licensed and based in the district. I'm sorry, also you could be a nonprofit entity as well that's based in the district providing services. So included in those are Latino businesses. Okay, I'm going to actually, as when Tamika continues to talk, I'll drop a couple links in the chat, including the link to the RFA, and that's where you can get to the application link, which I'll share as well. Where can I locate specific information for Dream Tank program? Let's take you to that. So again, the RFA would be the place to go, and Tamika, I'll let you take over this question too. Oops.
So right now, information about Dream Tank would also be in the RFA under programs. And because this is a new program, more information, detailed information, if you're asking about how to get into that program, those details will be forthcoming.
Let's see. Does your office space have to be in Washington, DC? So you should be a DC-based entity or nonprofit. So that would be yes. And also your license that you're giving us, we ask for your license number. That should be tied to the location in your application, which of course should be based in the district. Now, if your corporation has another address or a foreign incorporation, that's fine. We realize people often move since they first got incorporated, but we're looking at for the location, your current license address in the district. Will we be expected to deliver the workshops and classes at a particular site, or do we need to provide a site? Do you want to talk to your services?
So when you are doing your application, it'll ask you about location. So you can put in if you prefer to do the classes virtual or if you prefer to do the classes in person. And from there, you can add additional information. For last year, fiscal year 24, our classes were virtual. But in the past before that, classes were hybrid. So classes have been at DSOBD, classes have been in the community, and they have been virtual. So as you are providing information about your classes, you can put down where the classes would like to be held.
And I can speak for the District Capitalized Hub service area. In general, I'll be organizing the space, although part of the program is to address barriers to accessing capital information. So it might be that you as a provider may have a location you want to suggest, but ultimately it will be driven by where we can easily provide the service to the businesses. But as part of your proposal, you don't need to propose a service area, the rent for that service area. You would not need to do that. We're just focused solely on the technical assistance provision aspect of the program. And let's see. The next question, is there any assistance in applying for this grant? I've applied for grants in the past, but most of them seem like you need a doctor's degree and grant application to get them. I hear you. And ironically, that's what District Capitalized is, to help people navigate applying for funding, grants, and otherwise. I would say that we take a lot of steps to put everything we hope and think that you'll need to know in the request for application. So I would definitely read that. It feels long, but literally everything that we would expect of you and think that might be helpful for you will be in there. I also recommend that you, between now and our next information session, go into the application and fill it out. You can fill out the application more than once. We'll only read the last version that you submit. But if you want to fill out one with some placeholder information just to navigate through it, see if there are any sections that are not clear, you could make notes of that and then come to our next information session next Wednesday and ask those questions. So I recommend going to the application. Again, don't worry about submitting it and it being counted. If you submit another one after that, that's your actual final true application. We'll only look at that second submission. Oh, great. Okay, great. Thanks, EJ. Are we allowed to submit to execute an entire program like the Aspire program and deliver all courses, or should we aim to deliver specific courses?
Allowed to submit to execute an entire program like Aspire. You saying no?
Yeah, I'll use District Capital as an example, but Tamika may have another thought. I know for District Capital, the topics are varied. I would be surprised if one entity has information across all three topics of accounting and financial management services and legal and photography and uh, communication. So and also part of the purpose of this program is actually baked into the name of the grant. We're looking to not just get great providers for our businesses for a variety of topics and services, but to build you as a business to help you have an opportunity to provide those services. So in that sense, we will be looking for a mix of people both to satisfy what we need to give to our clients, but also to have many opportunities for businesses. So you're welcome to apply for all of that, but you might not get all of that if you are selected and awarded. That was a long answer. I hope that helped. Um, Hi, as a sole proprietor, there's a revenue cap you have to meet, or maybe is there a revenue cap that you have to meet to be eligible for the B2B grant? I've never heard of that, but no, I think I know we look at eligibility now, and then there's part two. If you meet that eligibility requirement, that's the part that's due on the 3rd of February. If you meet that, we'll move you forward to part two. That part two section where you're giving information about your business or your nonprofit or your entity and the proposal you're proposing to provide the services, that's where third-party reviewers will be doing the reviewing. So they're looking at your past performance, they're looking at your capacity to provide what you're proposing to provide. So I don't think they'll look at the revenue cap. I don't know what the revenue cap might be, but I don't think they'll be looking for that. They might look to see if you've done this work in the past and been paid to do it, but I'm not sure if they'll be looking to see the value of that contract that you may have had. Hopefully that addressed the revenue cap question. Are there extra scoring points for CBEs? So, I, you want to talk about, well, I think, oh, you want me to, I don't know. Yeah, so I know we're open to having CBEs. I don't know if we have a priority. Afterwards, I'll look to see if I can find it while Tamika's talking and put it in the chat. I would say that being a CBE will help you have most of your paperwork ready because you prepared that for your CBE application. And let's see. If your business is a food truck, my business address is my home address, is that fine? So yeah, if you're a food truck, you have a vending license and or maybe a food license. I'm not sure what type of license you need for that service, but you should be licensed somewhere. So we'll be looking at the license for that address and if that the address on that license, if that's your home, that's fine because DLCP checked all that out. So just be sure that you're providing the license for where you're currently operating and that's in your application. Oops, I think I passed one. I do not have a professional occupational license. Should I still apply to this grant? You do need a license relative to what you're doing. So if you're providing general business coaching, I think you could probably just get a basic business license. The professional and occupational licenses tend to be categories like electrician, plumber, accountant, hairstylist, anesthetician. I'm making up that word properly. So I don't know. I'm trying to think what topics that we might be covering that would require a professional occupational license. Accounting is probably the only one that comes to mind. So if you do need to be licensed for whatever appropriate that you're proposing. If you're not licensed now, you will need to be licensed by the time you send your application on the 3rd. Sometimes that goes fairly quickly, like maybe a B2B could be obtained fairly quickly. You should check with the Department of Licensing and Consumer Protection to get a sense of which license that you need and the time frame to obtain it. If for some reason you can't get it in time for this grant, I still encourage you to get it. It's required for a lot of things, and most of all, you need it for your own protection as a business owner, because without that, you're really not considered a business. You're just considered an individual, and that's a little risky if things should go awry, unfortunately, as you're conducting business. So yeah, you would need it by the 3rd, a license by the 3rd, and feel free to reach out to the Department of Licensing and Consumer Protections to know which one that you is appropriate. Should it be the same class? Should it be the same class to be offered different dates so that different businesses who can attend when they're available, or should it be a series or classes? Oh, okay. I think I'm going to paraphrase this, Tanisha. If I get it wrong, please chime in. But it sounds like you're asking, will we ask providers to give the same class on different dates so a variety of businesses can attend, or will there be a series of classes provided to the businesses that they all attend over that series? I know for district capitalized, I'm going to mix it up just for the purpose that the point that you made, that different businesses might be available at different times. So I'll have maybe a series. I'll also have maybe some one-off webinars. I might hopefully repeat them before the end of the summer so that we give an opportunity for businesses to attend. How about for your programs?
Must be the same
Okay.
for Aspire and Dream.
Okay. I was just navigating through the application, and at 33%, I clicked to the next to keep going, but it just took me to the thank you page. So it looks like the application was submitted. I just put a lot of random responses to keep going. How can I go back properly to respond to the application? So I believe before you submit, it should be set up, as we understand, that before you submit, you can go back and change things. You should even be able to leave the browser, leave the application, as in like walk away from your computer and come back. As long as you're still in the same browser and you haven't cleared your cookies, your computer should remember that you were on this Alchemer system and come back.
They may have to use the save and continue option.
Oh.
So if you did not click the save and continue, it may not be, but there is a save and continue where you will be asked to put in your email so it can send you a link to that application that you're working on. So that way you would go back to that same application. So if you did not use the save and continue option, then it may not take you back to that same application. You would have to probably start over.
Okay. And luckily it was just the placeholder stuff. So listen to what Tamika said, not what I said. And also I just put what she said in the chat. Okay, great, Tanisha. Thank you. Oh, Alfonso, I'll have you listen to the recording to hear the question again, because I see we're getting close on time. I know Tamika has a little bit more to share. And while she's doing that, I'll also add in a link to the RFA. And from the RFA, you can then link to the application. Okay, now we're talking about press for application. Oh,
Application process?
yes, application process. Okay.
So the B2B application is broken down into two parts. The first part being the eligibility, which opened on January 17th and that closes on February 3rd at 2 p.m. No late applications will be accepted. Of course, we just talked about the application. It is online. You can find that by going to the RFA or the DSLBD website under current funding opportunities. And then part two is the competitive application. So only those that meet the eligibility, and part one will be sent an invitation. A notice of eligibility will be emailed to those who complete part two, the competitive application. And those are anticipated to go out the week of February 3rd. And then you will have 2 weeks to complete part two. So here we have some links, which Camille was going to drop in the chat.
Oh, yes, yes, I'll drop it.
But
I realize
there-
I will be, I'll drop in the chat the links I mentioned, which are also here. I'll do that after we end, 'cause I'm sharing the same screens. I won't be able to drop in the chat very easily. But there are quite a few ways to get help, and I hope you really exhaust all of them, because they all will help you in different ways. As I already mentioned, that the request for application to RFA document is like the Bible, both for what you need to do to get to apply, but also to get a good sense of what will be expected of you if you're selected. So you might want to look into that as strongly, just to know, oh, what if I do get selected? Am I available during the different times to execute the agreement? Am I comfortable doing reporting? Am I comfortable with the other legal things that are mentioned in the request for application? So be sure to read beyond just the application submission part. We have this webinar, of course, which will have our comms team will post on YouTube. Hopefully it'll be up by Friday. We're also going to repeat the same information next Wednesday at 10 a.m. instead of 10 a.m. 10 a.m. So it'll be the similar information, but again, even though you attended today, you might want to look a deep dive at the RFA, do a test run through the application form, and then jot down your questions so you can be sure to ask them of us live during the information session. As again, go through the application just to get a sense of the navigation. Again, we will not, we'll take the last submitted application forms. If you submitted 2, 3, 4, we'll just look for the last dated one, and that'll be the final one that we look at. We won't look at the previous ones. So don't be shy about using the navigation form itself as a way to get comfortable with the process. And then our information session today and next week are not the only times you can ask questions. You can email us information. I highly encourage you, it's optional, but to subscribe for the email alerts. This is where we'll send out reminders if we add new information sessions, if there's a change in the deadline, which probably won't happen, but it has happened in the past. So it's great to have you on the email alerts list. That way, when we do have a change like that, we can let you know, because otherwise we won't know who's interested unless you subscribe to the alerts. So consider doing that. A little note about the inno.ed at dc.gov responses. We're pretty fast, but usually towards the deadline of an application, we start getting a lot of emails. So to be safe, if you have any questions, please submit them by January 29th. So that's, I think, a week from today. Be sure to submit them. That way we can guarantee you'll get an answer before the deadline. You can submit it after the 29th, and we'll get to as many as we can as they come in, first come, first serve. But as we get closer to the date, sometimes it's hard to get to all of them before the deadline. And we do not field any questions submitted by phone. So you might say, hey, I know Camille from another thing. Let me give her a call. I will refer you to inno.ed at dc.gov. If you email Tamika directly at her email, she'll forward that to the main line, the main email address. So this is so that all our questions come into one place, and also that we're giving consistent answers to everybody. So definitely use the email, don't call or email staff individually. And there are some cases where what you're experiencing in the application form might be a tech issue with the actual Alchemer system. And that's the space where unfortunately we know as much or as little as you do about Alchemer. So if you're having a tech issue, like some weird messages, you're welcome to let us know, but we probably will end up directing you to the Alchemer tech site to put in a ticket and get assistance. Another reason why it might be helpful to navigate that application form at least once to see if you have any tech issues, so you can resolve those before you do your final submission. Okay, let's see. We'll go back to questions in the chat, and then we'll pause in a moment to make sure anyone who's on the phone who can't ask by the chat will give you a chance to come off of mute. Let me see if any additional questions came in. I'm an insurance and security bonds broker for commercial construction. Can I keep it as my niche market, or do I need my classes to expand to all small business owners? I think it depends on what service area you're proposing in. We're trying to reach all businesses. So I know for district capitalized, I'm open to seeing what's out there for various industries, because we're trying to reach businesses from all stages. I'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow at that information session, but that includes businesses who are at the advanced stage of their industry, including construction. So you may have something very specific to helping businesses in that area of accessing capital that would be helpful. So yes, feel free. I always say propose where your strengths are. So if that's your strength, go for it, because that might be an area that we need assistance in to help the businesses.
So how do-
Oh, yes, a building management. Okay, yep.
Mhm.
Oh, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah.
No, okay. Okay, hopefully that was helpful to Tanisha, okay. And let's see, oh, thanks, Alonzo. Thank you, Rylinda. Tanisha, I just saw the word district capitalized, but if you have a question, feel free to drop it in. And then, Alfonso, helping people obtain their clean hand certificate, is that a service? A service that you need as an applicant, or a service that you're proposing? And feel free to, come off of mute if that's helpful. Or maybe you can't come off of mute. Let me see if that's possible. Let's see. A service that you can provide. I know for district capitalized, getting to your clean hands is important because you need that often for fundraising. I would say off the top of my head, that's something that we have partners at the tax office who can help them do that. So not saying that that's not something you should propose, but maybe keep that in mind. And that's true for any service. If you have someone who's a competitor or similar services out there, maybe distinguish in your proposal how your service would be different from them. Yeah, thank you for asking that, Alfonso. I thought we enabled people to come off of mute. Let me see if that is still the case or not. That might not be the case. That's not great. Yeah, I put people should unmute. Hmm. Allow panelists. Oh, actually, I apologize. I think we're in a format of WebEx that only lets the panelists unmute. So sorry about that. I'm looking to see if we have anyone on the phone, which means they probably then can't ask a question. I don't see any phone users. So to all live and also those on the phone, it looks like this particular format of WebEx won't let attendees unmute. Sorry about that. I think next time we'll pick the other meetings format maybe. So yeah, please drop your questions in the chat. And for phone users, since you might not be able to do that, our email is no.ed. It's right here at dc.gov. Be sure to email us the questions and we can answer them. And I'll put that in the chat right now too. Is there anything else, guidance wise you wanted to share?
Mhm.
Okay. Any other final questions, thoughts, concerns? Again, if you haven't had a chance to read the RFA, I would read through that, try the application form, and you're welcome to email us by no.ed or come back at the next information session, which is next Wednesday, January 29th at 10 a.m. It'll be live as well. That will also be recorded. So if you missed that or want to hear what other people had questions about from that session, you can listen to that. That'll be uploaded to this DSLBD video link probably 2 days after the 29th, so around the 30th, 31st. I'm asking this specific question because when helping friends apply to grants, they don't seem to even know how to obtain their clean hands, yes, so that I could do that for them. But in reality, that's called consulting, right? I'm not sure. I guess it would be consulting or coaching guidance. I know through this program, we might, to give you an example for at least District Capitalized Hub, if we have someone guiding people to how to prepare an application, including getting their clean hands, that'll be part of the instruction. We wouldn't actually pay someone to help another business get their clean hands. We would pay someone to help guide people on how to do it for themselves. I don't know if that's the case for your programs too. Would you?
I think we have partners.
Yeah. So I think for both of our programs, we would either use the partners who are providing that service, giving guidance, or district capitalists that might have someone talk about that in a larger context, but we wouldn't pay someone to help someone else get a clean hands since it's free to get. Yeah, we probably wouldn't do that. Any other questions? Okay, thanks for your question, Alfonso. Okay, so if there aren't any other questions, oh, here comes in, come on, Shah. If the business only existed 1 year, can they still apply? It's a nonprofit that got exempt at the end of the year and was only able to fundraise the final month in 2024. Do I still need a letter from a CPA? Do we require letters from the CPA? So I'll break down the questions. So there is no specific amount of time you should be in business to apply, but just know that when you're, if you get through the eligibility requirements, which we don't need a CPA letter for that, if you get through the eligibility requirements and then you move on to part two, the proposal stage, that's where you'll need to demonstrate your capacity to provide whatever service that you're proposing. So you might be a younger entity, but you have a lot of depth of experience over the years through other things that you're bringing to your business or your nonprofit now. So you just need to demonstrate that you have depth in that area. I wouldn't fluff it up. Don't be compelled to fluff it up because some people are very clever at the early stages of their business. But just be sure to convey that your depth there. I don't think we're collecting financials. Yeah, so we wouldn't be collecting financials. You should be a viable entity, which means that you should be able to not only, if awarded, operate and perform on this grant, but just your business itself should be able to be viable and operate. So that means you should have a way to manage your other administrative costs, etc. This grant tends to award, at least last year, heavily on the provision and not so much on overhead. So you should be a viable organization that can handle your overhead with a little bit of contribution from this grant, but it won't be that much proportionately. And don't forget to share the links after the questions, yes. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I could do that. So you can get some quick links right now. Let me stop that. So I'll start dropping the links in the chat. And again, these are all links that are available. I'll go there one more time just so you know. They're all on our website, and I'll show you how I got there one more time. So I went to our main homepage of DSLBD. I navigate down to the grants area. You should bookmark this in general throughout the year. But this time we have quite a few grants that are open right now. So the first one might not be B2B. It's another one, but keep on going. This is us. And then you go to these subpage specific to the B2B grant. And that's where you'll find all the links I'm about to copy over, including links to the next information session, a link to tomorrow's information session. Again, a little plug. Oh, thanks, Tamika. Again, if you are considering or have capacity to perform services in the topics of accounting, legal, financial advisory services, including financial management, to help businesses get prepared to apply for funding opportunities, generate sales, and manage that money effectively. We'd love to see if you're interested in that service area. Again, that's tomorrow at 11 a.m. and the link to join that is here. And I could probably copy that in the chat here. This is for, and again, this is just one of the service areas that the B2B grant covers. Tamika covered the other ones. So this is one very specific area. So if you're joining tomorrow, we'll just talk about that service area, not about the other ones. And again, continuing, so if you pass this general, and most of this information, I believe, is our notice of funding opportunity, funding availability, the NOFA. So that's what I'm scrolling past right now. That document itself, the NOFA, is available here just to download. And then Tamika just dropped in the chat the link to the actual to the RFA and the application. Is that right? Yes.
And the email alerts too, if they want that.
Yes, and the email alerts. I definitely encourage you to do that. Sometimes we do have juicy news, like more money is available or an extension of the week. But if you're not subscribed to the alert, we won't be able to tell you that because we don't know who you are. So I encourage you to sign up for that. Any other final thoughts, suggestions?
I don't have anything.
No, okay. Well, thank you for joining us and considering this grant opportunity. I hope this was helpful to understand what's in the RFA and some next steps to help yourself get ready to apply. Again, the deadline is February 3rd, 2 p.m. It's all online, no exceptions. 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And our next session is, again, a repeat of this, but there'll be another live Q&A part if you'd like to ask questions, and that's next week, Wednesday at 10 a.m. And we hope you have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.